And I'd like to welcome everybody to the West Side Computer Club. Normally we'd have a topic tonight, but we don't, so it's going to be an open topic. We're going to talk about all kinds of things, I'm hoping. Um, and with that, I'd like to circle back to Bob was kind of educating us people that don't use Linux, just what was the differences? He's part of another club. And I was kind of wondering, is there commonality amongst the versions of Linux that are being run at this club? Not that this is the Linux SIG, and we're not focusing on Linux tonight by no means. It was just educating our group on some of the nuances of Linux. And Bob basically said there's a whole barrage. Everyone uses a lot of different flavors, and it depends on their history and their when they got into it and what they learned to like. If you want to agree with that, Bob, yes.
Yeah, I let me just start from the beginning what new users to Linux would want to know. Linux is both a kernel, which all Linux has in common, and a kernel is just at the lowest level, what's at the very heart of your operating system. Windows has one, and a lot of the kernel is in System 32, and Linux has one. Then, outside of a kernel, you will have a shell. In Linux, we have what are called distributions. They're various families and flavors. The best known family of Linux is the Debian family, and some people may have heard of Ubuntu, or you may have heard of Mint. Those are two Debian flavors of Linux, or as we call them, distros. There's been a lot of branching out and a lot of different families of Linux, each with their own histories. And a lot of the reason for the division and the forking is historic. Sometimes there have been philosophical disagreements. Sometimes there have been technical disagreements. But another well-known Linux in business is Red Hat Enterprise. That's a different family of Linux, and it uses a different type of installer. And so the packaging of the programs is different. And the system components are a bit different too. But all Linux has a lot of things in common with other Linux. So a new user might approach Linux Mint. And Linux Mint, superficially, it has a desktop called Cinnamon. And superficially, that looks a lot like Mac or a little bit like some of the older Windows desktops. And if I had my other computer, I could get into this meeting and show you the desktop, but I don't have that up and running right now.
It's okay.
So anyway, most Linux will have not only what we see as a taskbar, although usually in Linux it's at the top. In Mint, they move it down to the bottom because that's what Windows users and Mac users would be used to. But there's also on the left-hand side another panel that has other things that you might want to do. You might want to pin things. Anyway, you can run programs from one panel and run your operating system features from basically the taskbar. Some Linux has pop-up menus instead of the sidebar on the left. So anyway, you install programs in Linux. There's a lot of ways you can do it. There's a graphical interface that acts a lot like the Windows App Store. And each different family of Linux, each distro will have its own what we call a repo or repository. And it's basically a collection, just like a store is a collection. You can also go outside of those collections and do what I guess we would call side loading. I find an application. You kind of have to make sure that you know what system components that application will need and know whether you have them. Or you can use an installer which checks for you and finds any needed, they're called dependencies, finds anything that's needed that you don't have or that you do have, but it will just simply list what's needed. So anyway, We have what are called package managers. And so instead of having to update each program or get some kind of third-party updater, in Linux, we just simply take this operating system component, which would be similar to an app store, and we just look for updates. And it will list what's available, and we install it, or if we don't want it, we uncheck it. So we don't have to take updates as they come. Although it's recommended to take some updates sooner or later. You don't have to update, no, you don't have to upgrade the kernel the way you have to do feature updates in Windows. Eventually you have to do them in Windows.
Why is Linux perceived as being more secure than Windows?
We don't run as administrator. We run as user. Linux is also based on Unix, which inherently had security baked in. Things that should be isolated from each other are isolated. There is something called permissions. You have it in Windows, but you never notice it because unless you get a UAC prompt, you're not being asked for anything having to do with permissions. In Linux, we get asked for our password all the time, and we may have to change permissions, which is a tedious process, highly technical. We have a command line. Windows has a command line. It has a terminal in Windows 11, which combines PowerShell with the traditional command line. But not many people in Windows use command lines unless you're really technical. In Linux, it's a lot more common to use the command line. It's just quicker and easier for some things. And command line has a language just like DOS had a language, just like the Windows PowerShell has a language, that sort of thing. New users don't really need to know very much about the command line, just how to install a program that isn't installing through your package manager. But the package managers are graphical, and you can download from outside the repository, but you seldom have to. Most Linux distros come with pre-installed software that gives you the equivalent of, or close to the equivalent of Microsoft Office, and you'll have a media player, you'll have a web browser, which is usually Firefox. You can install Chrome or the free and open source version, which is called Chromium. And you get to pick and choose a lot in Linux.
You said you have to put in passwords quite a bit. Does that mean whenever you go to run a program, you have to put a password in, or when you need to install one?
Install will almost always require your administrator password.
Okay.
But in Windows, that's true too. You have to give administrator permission to install most Windows programs.
Okay.
However, if you want to make changes in system areas, you will be asked for your password. And this happens much more often in Linux than it does in Windows. We have a lot of control, but we also have a lot of responsibility for making sure that the settings are working correctly. And some of those require administrator permission. And to make sure that the components that a program will depend on other components. We have to sometimes make sure those components are there, that they're properly installed. We may have to move them around a little bit. And a lot of that will require the password.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to a more other subjects that will, the group here may be more interested in or not.
Right.
But you, in earlier discussions, you brought up one part of Windows that's called System 32. Does anyone in the group want to expand on one thing? What is System 32 and why is it called System 32 versus not System 64? Anyone? Okay, well, that was a great subject. Good question. I have no idea what System 32 is other than a repository. So,
Okay.
I'm sorry, you were holding back.
It's base functions of simple program applications. And most people don't even know they exist. And in some instances, they may be executing something from the Systems 32 library, but they don't know that. They're oblivious to it. I create shortcuts for my standard account with elevated administrative login required. Otherwise, they don't work correctly in a standard user usually. And some of these are like disk management. Another one is device management. Another one is like the old cleanup tool, which is being rolled into PC Manager by Microsoft as a all-in-one place instead of a half a dozen or more places you would have to go to do the same functionality. There's also one for some people that might need to clear out the cache of the WinSock on their computer because it can get fuzzy, so to speak.
But why is it called System 32?
Because it originated back in Microsoft's Windows 32 days. For the majority of it, it just gets updated. It's 32-bit applications. They're not 64-bit. Even if you got a 64-bit processor and a 64-bit operating system, these are 32-bit programs. And some of them probably date back to Windows 1 or at least Windows 3.
So these programs have never been updated by Microsoft?
No, they do update them periodically, but not very often, and they're not obvious updates. These are updates that would be buried in big cumulative updates at most.
They're very.
Are these like subroutines?
Not really. They're actually, if you think about web apps, those are usually a very simple, basic program, mostly to do just one thing and one thing only. Well, that's what System 32 apps are. They are only 32-bit programs that do one basic function, and that's it. So if you wanted to do certain things on your system, you might need several of these utilities to be executed. Now, I do not run in the administrator mode other than monthly maintenance, and that's it. And I get off of the administrator account as quickly as I can. For the rest of the time, I am on a standard account. But most of these utilities require administrative privileges, and therefore you have to make a shortcut on your desktop to execute these. And before you use it the first time, you have to modify the shortcut to prompt you for the administrator's login. And then it'll execute the program thereafter anytime you double click on that desktop icon, asking you for the administrator's password. It'll show you your graphic Windows display. You do whatever it is that program allows you to do, and then you proceed from there to exit out of that application and do other work on your computer. But most of these are only done once in a while. Having them ability to execute them on the desktop of a standard user means I don't have to exit standard account, go into my administrator's account, do this one or more special job, log out, and come back into the standard account to continue on whatever I need to do.
Yeah, most of these functions, in fact, almost all of them, are not only specific to particular tasks, they also tend to operate at a low level. They are very deep inside the operating system kinds of things. They also include drivers, which can live in what's known as the driver store. This is where CrowdStrike happened and caused a problem with Delta Airlines and others. In order for security programs to do certain kinds of system monitoring and system protection, they need access to these low-level functions inside of System 32. And they have to inject a driver in there. Periodically, this driver needs to be updated. What happened in CrowdStrike was the update to the driver was flawed, and it caused an endless reboot cycle. And it was very difficult to break out of that and to repair the damage. In fact, a Linux boot USB, a Linux live environment, was one of the ways you could break this reboot cycle and be able to boot into safe mode, where you could remove the driver and replace it with a good copy. You do have backups, don't you? So that you know how to replace a driver. Well, businesses are supposed to have this. Enterprises are supposed to have this kind of backup. Many of them didn't.
May I ask, why didn't us consumers get blue screens of death caused by this CrowdStrike thing?
Because it's an enterprise security solution, not a consumer level.
And most of what was affected was enterprises, not the consumer, unless they're running one of the System 32 applications and it loads in a driver after an update was done to their system.
So is this CrowdStrike something on akin to Windows Defender?
No.
No, it is more like the Windows Enterprise or Endpoint solutions. In businesses, you have to be able to react before there's a definition for a virus or an attack. You have to be able to react to network traffic that's unusual, various other things. And these days you use heuristics, which is a branch of AI, in order to predict the behavior of something that gets on your system, or in order to detect what's going on your network. And so there's a lot more involved, a lot more different aspects of security. And again, if any aspect of this doesn't work properly, you can have some serious consequences.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that certain drivers are absolutely required, and there are more drivers in our Windows systems than the majority of people know and understand. And it's easily around 100 to 100 plus drivers just to make your system operational. Without the drivers, a lot of things wouldn't even work. In fact, your whole system could hinge on just one driver not working right to stop you from even booting up the computer in the first place.
Understood.
So,
Harry, did you have any questions for our group?
I don't at the moment, but I'm comfortable enough to raise a question when
Please do.
when it becomes evident that there is one.
Okay, I'm not trying to, pick you out of the group. I
No.
just thought
appreciate
maybe you
the
might
offer.
have
Thank you.
a question for, on any topic. Anything is open tonight, except for like how to mow your lawn or how to trim your hedges or something like that. We're not doing any of those home things. But
Understandable.
Wayne, do you have any questions you'd like to propose to anybody?
Not at the moment.
Okay. And I know Bob's got loads. Bob Baxter's always got loads of questions, but he's off in a different direction right now. One of the things that I had asked for a future meeting is somebody to do some kind of presentation on Excel or Microsoft Word. And Joe Nowak did have something that he was going to volunteer to the group as an offer. Joe, are you still hanging in there? Joe. Well, maybe he's taking a nap, I hope, but maybe when he comes back. But Joe did say to us that he had something. Okay, Bob says he has 800 folders in his driver store in Windows 11 Pro.
So there's a lot of drivers.
Well, you understand, they're trying to cover all the devices that need a driver going way, 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 way back. And out of the 800, you're only doing about 1/8 or a little bit higher, like maybe a seventh of the entire
Yeah.
driver store.
Yeah. It's kind of like if I look at all the all apps list, I'll have 117 programs, but only about 67 of them ever get updated.
Right. And it varies. Driver updating can be very important to any system. I don't care what it is, whether it's Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. Driver updates can significantly eliminate bugs that are in the drivers, just like a regular application program. Number two, they can add enhancements that improve the performance of the driver. And three, it can also take and generate new features that didn't exist previously that more or less can be easily paired with that specific driver. Like, for example, for printers, you have plain printers, no scanner, or you have plain scanner, no printer, or you have an all-in-one that has both. And you also have some all-in-ones that include faxing capability. So the faxing capability, the scanner, and the driver may be all in one.
Hello, hello, everybody froze on me. Crap. I don't know if anyone
I'm in
can.
a common package. I have that on my system where there's an Intel graphics and there's an Intel display audio, but there's also a separate audio subsystem on the board that's Realtek. So you may have different manufacturers for these different drivers. But anyway, what I was going to add to all of this is to manage my drivers, I have two different utilities. One is from Asus, which is the maker of the motherboard, and the other is from Intel, which is the maker of many of the components, as well as the chipset.
They're also, Intel is also a major manufacturer of motherboards.
Yeah, but mine happens to be an Asus. And I have an AMI BIOS. By the way, has everybody checked your BIOS to find out that you don't have one of these dummy certificates, these testing certificates that say do not use in the certificate? That is,
I don't know
that's a
what the heck
secure
you're
boot issue. That's a
Wait.
secure boot issue.
Wait. What the heck are you talking about, Bob? I know how to
Secure-
update a BIOS, but I don't know what you're talking about this part, the certificate.
Secure boot has security certificates. And some BIOSes shipped with a secure boot security certificate that was for testing purposes. And it had a very easy to guess password. And there are articles about what the flaw is, which motherboards are likely to be affected, which brands of computers, especially laptops, may have been affected. And some of the articles will even tell you how to check to see if your firmware has a problem, to see if the secure boot part of your firmware in your BIOS has a problem.
So if
So
let's say mine did, what would that do to me?
it would make you vulnerable to some pre-boot malicious exploits that happen before your operating system or your antivirus or your firewall ever kicks in. And it's a BIOS level or a system board level, a firmware level attack. And there are getting to be more and more of these.
Yes.
They can come in through USB drives. They can come in through a lot of different ways.
Yeah, don't dismiss it, whether you understand all of it or not. You need to know the information. If you ignore it, you're probably going to be one of the victims. Now, the other thing that seems to come up with this here, if you own a machine that is probably no more than 5 years old, updating your BIOS can be very easy by just going out to the manufacturer's site and getting the latest version. And if you're already at that version, when you try and install it, it will tell you you don't need it, basically speaking. But you do it from a running Windows system to update the BIOS. And you have it downloaded. So you go to your download folder, you double click the BIOS update, and it'll guide you right through it and get it all done. Then reboot your system, finish off the update, and you're back in business, unless something drastic went wrong, such as losing power while it's doing this update. That can really bork your system. Basically making it unbootable, maybe unusable without a new BIOS chip. But most of the systems within the last 5 years have a backup of the former BIOS and give you the tools to roll back to that prior version, and you can then continue on using your system. On the other hand, if you get a business class system, it can be older than 5 years. And when you do Windows updates, you will likely get firmware updates, which include not only individual hardware firmware updates, but also BIOS updates. And Windows Update helps install all of it. So if you're looking for any kind of new computer down the road, try and remember, you want to look at business class machines because they have very extended support beyond consumer class, which is 3 to 5 years at most. And after that, you won't see much in the way of updates usually from most of them. Only some of the high-end ones like HP, Asus, Lenovo, Dell will go past the 5 years, at least for a while. With the business class, some of them can be more than 10 years old, and you're getting still updated firmware and BIOS for them.
So let me ask you, my particular brand being a Lenovo, also has Intel chips in it. And I've been following Bob's advice in using the Intel updating protocol, if you will, or in other words, go to Intel and get all the updates from them. And they will update the BIOS with an Intel BIOS or from Intel. Is there a difference from getting the BIOS update from Intel versus Lenovo?
Technically, no. It's basically the same thing. Remember, I said Intel is the largest motherboard maker in the world, and they don't really care about a specific version of BIOS. They support all the BIOS. So the other companies who update the BIOS that is not specific to Intel forward the new version to Intel so that their software will be able to pull that down when you're interrogating what's new to be updated, and it'll pull down that version and help you get that installed. And Microsoft, when you go through the Microsoft update on a business class machine, they don't care. They got all the BIOS updates for the business class machines from the manufacturer, and that's how they can download a copy of a new version and go through the update process. It's hands off. It just downloads it as you're doing the normal configuration update. You'll go through the first phase that goes from 0 to 30%. Then on the reboot, it'll do the BIOS update. When the BIOS update is done, then it'll go back after a reboot and finish the second part of the configuration from 30% to 100%. And there might be a cleanup that utility that also runs after the fact to get rid of some known junk.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that bit of information. Joe Novak, are you still here? Okay, we're circled back to Joe again, and I'll circle it back again. Maybe he's eating dinner. I don't know. Okay, let's go to a different subject. How about routers? You know, I was out shopping for routers the other couple of weeks ago, and I was looking at a particular brand. The one I chose was ASUS because I like their lineups. There are so many. I can't believe how many flavors of routers that they have. It's just mind-boggling. Yes, we know that there's gamer ones, but just looking in the consumer class ones that are not gamers, that the high-end expensive ones. I'm just looking at the average price ones that are like sub $200-300 and even down to the $100 range. There's like 30 different flavors. Well, how am I supposed to choose?
Well, that's like Linux. Linux is, in a sense, the same way. And one Linux version that Bob didn't mention is the Arch one. That's the bleeding edge technology. Most of the others try and vet new update features and updates before they release it in their distro. But
okay, so how do we navigate this muddy field of different types of routers? I mean, short of going to a review site, what should we do?
Routers, especially like Tom's hardware, and there's other. Tom has about 3 or 4 different channels, so to speak, and you can go to there. You can also check out YouTube, and a lot of times you can get a lot of information on various models. But it's a case where all routers that I'm aware of are using Linux as the OS.
Okay, but that doesn't still change anything. I get that, but it doesn't. If they're all running a version of Linux, and
Okay.
I'm just kind of confused here.
Well, first of all, just as in buying a computer, the first step is to take an inventory. What do you have on your network? What are your needs? What are you trying to protect? And that will lead you to what you will need. Also, depending on what's on your network, you can determine what kinds of bands you need, what kinds of speed you need, what kinds of bands your equipment that you've got doesn't use. Therefore, you won't have a need for a router with these newer Wi-Fi 6 bands, unless you want to future-proof yourself and get a router for your next computer. Then you might want to consider the Wi-Fi 6. But in any event, what features you need in a router depend a lot on what you're doing with that router, just the same way as it would be with a computer or anything else you would attach to your network.
Some of the things that they do are really nitty-gritty technical knowledge, and the average consumer, like myself, somebody, doesn't necessarily know. What is the difference between a QoS and a QoY, or
No, QoS is quality of service.
I was playing fun with the terminology.
Yeah.
If you don't, there's no QoY, so it was some of the things in there are highly technical, and the average user may not know how to ask the right question.
Well, not only that, but you get into you got to set up the router, especially if you buy it versus the one you get from your ISP. They usually will configure it for you either by the technician who installs it or by the home office. And networking is very technical. And therefore, you have to learn the language of networking and what the heck you might need. And I just learned one thing today that I hadn't heard before that's pertinent. More and more people are either having a smart home or smart devices. And as such, almost all those devices rely upon the old 2.4 gigahertz. And that is notoriously unreliable in comparison to the 5 gigahertz or the new 6 gigahertz. And the funny part about it is that you can actually have so many devices that are on your system and you lose track of them. They are clobbering each other, reducing their effectiveness and latency in responding to your request. But also, older devices have vulnerabilities, and there is in an article that I just found today, there's at least one piece of software that can help you find on your home network vulnerable smart devices. And you might want to then consider getting something newer that is not vulnerable like the old one, and retire the old one to scrap it.
In general, how often should you update or get a new router? In general,
Maximum 5 years.
every 5
They
years you should.
don't support new updates after 5 years. None of
Okay.
them.
Yeah, your router won't be getting updates, and you definitely want to get the updates.
So
Right.
I know there's some users in our group that really are happy the fact that they're running a 10, 15-year-old router like a Netgear, the old Netgear ones. I remember using those and they were great, but are you guys saying that you should not use those?
Hey, no, you really shouldn't, because they're vulnerable to a lot of networking attacks by hackers and or software such as network worms. They go from system to system to system to system, finding the vulnerable ones and infecting them.
Okay.
But bottom line is about 5 years after they start manufacturing a version of a router, they stop doing any updates. So within, I would say, no more than 6 months of that, I would be getting a new one to replace that with.
So does that mean that you've replaced your routers that are over 5 years old?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was trying to put you on the spot here and say, well, no, not me.
You really do have to do it. And when you don't do it, you just create a risk. But
Okay.
there is one
Yeah.
other area, and I alluded to that before. If you get your router modem from the ISP, it's up to them to do the updates. They do them, they install them.
Okay,
And
Harry had a
second of
question.
all,
Harry had a question. Hold on.
5
Harry had a
years,
question.
they have not replaced most of those routers. They do periodically do some of the replacement of the routers, but in many instances, after it's 5 years old or more, you're still using an outdated router that isn't getting updates and praying nothing bad happens. Usually,
My ISP just did notify me that they would like me to update my gateway.
that's good, but at the same time too, a lot of them don't do that. Usually you have to figure out, oh, I got to be past 5 years at this point on the age of the router because I've had it 5 years. So it was probably a used one to begin with when they put it in, so it's past 5 years. And
Yeah.
you have to usually call your ISP customer support
Yeah.
and basically tell them, I want an updated router,
Okay,
period.
hold, Harry had a
Okay.
question.
Harry,
So just an observation, and people can reject it or whatever. Rule of thumb over the years had been that it doesn't pay to rent from the ISP. I pay $10 a month. And you probably can aggregate the cost over 3 to 5 years and buy whatever it is you want cheaper. I got lazy about 10 years ago. I did every 3 years, 4 years, replace my own. And I'm not sure why. Maybe I really did get lazy, although I was joking, and said, you know what? I think for the time being, I'm going to let them have that responsibility. Partly, if in a year or two I've got problems with it, I don't drag it out. Give it a day or two. If I can resolve it, if the technician can resolve it, that's fine. If a day or two later we can't, I very carefully back up everything that I need to back up, bring it, it's about 3 miles away, it's not that far, bring it in, no discussion, no conversation. Here's my ID, here's my account number, I'm having trouble with this, and within 5 minutes, I've got the new one in the car back home. So I don't want to spend other people's money. I'm just saying it's a touch more expensive over the 3 to 5 years to do it that way at $10 a month. But this way, I've been assured that I have the latest that the ISP offers. Is that the same as what you can get on the open market? Probably not. You can probably get better.
But you got peace of mind.
One thing
And
that's
Harry's got peace of mind, and Harry's got a quick, simple solution that he doesn't have to be the tech support guy in his house on a router, right?
that's true. But here's the other thing. Harry also said that about 10 years ago, he was getting his own router. But what he didn't say is if you're going that route, you also have to get the modem. Now, the modems don't change as often, and as long as the modem works, you can change your router if you want to every year and keep getting a new router if you wanted to. But the modem will stay the same, so it's a one-time investment for a long time.
Well, I never got to ask Joe Nowak to step in, and I did ask, but he wasn't there. And when he popped in, he decided to leave. So sorry to say, Joe Nowak, he did have something to tell the group about, but he exited before we could find out about this product that he was telling us we could get. So sorry about that. Please continue on. So I guess we should go on a new subject on routers, or
I've seen some of the modems go 10, 15, 20 years because all they're doing is taking an analog signal coming in through the cable and turning it into a digital signal that's then fed into your router. But the router needs updates, and therefore it only lasts about 5 years before you need to replace it. The modem has no updates of any kind. It just either fails hardware-wise, or a new standard comes out that you have to have for a higher rate of transfer speed, say past 1 gigahertz.
okay.
And if you go past 1 gigabyte of transfer speed, then you probably will need a new modem, because maybe you're on DOCSIS 1 and DOCSIS 3, and you need a 3.1, or you may need something that's even higher than that.
Can a cable
That's one of
modem
the
become
advantage-
infected, like
Pardon?
a router?
a modem can become infected. Yes.
And how would the end user even know? Because we don't talk to the cable modem. We talk through the modem, but not to it.
Understood, but I have never seen or heard of how to detect, is my modem running okay, or is it infected?
Maybe a technician could tell, but it would have to be somebody who actually comes in and runs some special tests.
Okay.
There's a outside possibility customer service in the tech section might be able to do it from the office to determine, because when you buy your own router, you must notify before you can use that router to your ISP with necessary identification information. And they will then know what you got, so they can do a check now and then from the home office to see that everything is running okay.
Wait.
That would be the modem. That
That's
would
the
be the
cable
modem
modem,
that
not
has to
the
be
router.
registered.
No, they even check the router.
They do check your router as well.
Right, but I've never had to notify or discuss anything about the router with my ISP. My cable modem, yes, when I installed it, they had to more or less flash it, or it's to flash the communications to enable it to work on their system. So they would,
Right.
so you plug it in, and then you'd sit there and you talk with them, and they'd come in and do their little magic, and then it starts working.
And also we get warned that if we use our own modem, we may not have access to all the features that are available through the ISP.
Yeah, and if you want all those features, do like Harry's doing and pay the buck, and then you'll get everything that it could do.
Yeah.
Like turning your
But-
lights off and turning your lights on, or
There are also some features that have to do with access to certain programming or certain services.
sure.
Or still have a house phone VoPI service through the modem router, so that you can use non-telephone company service, which is exorbitantly expensive compared to $10 a month for VoPI capability.
Yeah, if I were to swap out my equipment, I would probably have to change the phone service that I have with Comcast. It would become a different service. And I think they are changing the protocol a little bit, but it would also have different features, but it would have better features.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. I use an old house phone. Well, I don't real old. I use wireless ones, and it goes through my modem. Voice over IP is what VoPI stands for.
Okay, this was a good subject to go on to. Wayne or Harry or Bob, would you guys like to pick just the subject that we could talk about next? Just anything.
Yeah, what's all these new computers are talking about that are supposed to be designed for AI? What's the difference between those and what we now
Quite
have?
a bit. CoPilot plus PCs. That's the label. So if it's a new one, it's the CoPilot plus PC by some manufacturer. The ones this year are all ARM-based processor systems. We won't get the Intel and AMD chipset until next year sometime, early. And ARM is doing pretty good, but may not be the end-all be-all that some people hyped.
So are they trying to throw in some processing, sub-processing?
Hang loose for a
Oh,
second.
I'm sorry.
The CPUs in these particular machines have an NPU processor, neural processing unit. This is a localized processor for AI functionality right at your own local computer, instead of a smart mainframe computer out on the internet somewhere in the cloud. So bottom line is, you can do some of your own stuff. Now, there is a feature that's been very controversial about this called recall. And supposedly it was going to come in Windows 11 24H2. And they've withdrawn it for the time being, but I guarantee you it will come back in some form. It is of high concern to a lot of people, because what it does, it takes 4-second snapshots of everything on your screen, converts it into text, saves the image plus the text automatically encrypted, and then when you do a search, it figures out how to determine which information you are wanting and brings it back up to you unencrypted.
Is the recall information ever uploaded to your Microsoft account? For example, if you're using OneDrive for storage?
They do not specify that, but it wouldn't surprise me that it does if you have that active.
Otherwise, you'd be using up a heck of a lot of memory on your computer.
Memory and storage requirements are huge for these things.
Well,
Yeah.
the recall is supposed to be doing it at a reasonable amount of storage space because they're compressing it. Okay, number one. Number two, try and find a computer, especially whether it's a 2411 made computer, whether it's CoPilot Plus or not, that has less than 1 terabyte main storage. And most people don't even need 256 gigabytes of storage.
Yeah, not for our own
A
stuff.
lot of space
Yeah.
that ain't being used by a lot of people.
Oh, well, wait. Speak about yourself, okay?
Oh, this
Terabyte is not enough for me. I need 41
Sanford-
terabytes.
Stanford, we don't all download the entire Beatles catalog and keep
We
it
don't
on our
have the whole
laptop.
internet.
We don't all download the entire movie catalog from that.
I like that. I like
on
that.
a server, and that's not loaded on your local machine.
I know, I was just having some
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
over here, but
I
do
it's a
fill
very
mine up
important
pretty
point.
quickly.
now let me.
People that you do so little, even if it's a brand new computer, they can get by with a 128 gigabyte drive.
Oh yeah,
Never
a lot of people can.
not have to go higher.
Yeah, a lot of people can get by on phone level storage, 128, 64 gig. But I want to point out something. What these hardware requirements really are in the real world for local AI processing. The NPUs operate at 40 trillion operations per second. Do you know how much
That's a lot.
electric power that takes? And do you know how much heat is generated by doing that? Now, the heat they claim is under pretty good control. They have special heat sinks. They have special ways of cooling. And they have low power requirements because ARM has efficiency cores. But the amount of electricity these will need will require something like 3 to 6 times the power supply capacity of current laptops. That is going to get heavy.
Not only that, but it's also a case where whatever your battery performance was in the older technology in a laptop, it's going to be cut dramatically in the new one unless they come up with a new battery technology that has a higher capacity. And batteries are heavy. Therefore, you go from real ultra thin computers that are nice and light, under 3 pounds, to something that might weigh 7 pounds, mostly because of a large battery requirement to get decent time on that battery, not connected to the AC power adapter.
So it sounds like there's a lot of kinks to be worked out about with these NPUs that they're going to be coming down the
Well,
line.
that's why a lot of people will recommend, do not, I repeat, do not think about getting a first generation versions. Wait until at least the second generation. Number two, I guarantee you, the vast majority of the consumer division of all the computers out there have no need for the NPU. If you're in enterprise and medium-sized businesses, even some small businesses, if you're a scientist or a data researcher, et cetera, software developers that are incorporating AI into regular applications, those are the people that are going to need the NPU capable processor.
Yeah, on the other hand, if you don't do local processing, anytime you're going to use an AI assistant, you will have to be connected through a Microsoft account to the internet.
Not necessarily the Microsoft account, because I can
Yeah, right.
Linux and I'm not attached to Microsoft, and I use AI through the browsers.
Yeah, there are other AIs, but if you're going to use CoPilot,
You're
Yeah,
going to
that's
use
true.
CoPilot, right? For instance, like they're showing on the commercial of this guy developing his advertising literature and his tables and stuff using AI, where he uses CoPilot to do it. I don't know if anyone's seen the commercial on TV. I
But
saw
that's a
it just the
business.
other day.
And that
I thought it was
understand.
very intriguing, but he was actually developing a marketing plan using CoPilot
Mhm.
and cutting his workload down in a fraction of time. Sounds great, but he's not doing it. Somebody else is doing it. A computer is doing it for him. Isn't that cheating?
No.
no.
And you can even have the AIs generate computer code. It isn't always efficient. So
Right.
the programmer who gets the code must go through that line by line to make sure the computer code is as efficient and does everything it's supposed to, because the code generated may not do all the functions it was supposed to do, or
Okay.
at least not correctly.
All right, that was a great topic. Wayne, good, thank you. Good questions.
Well, I don't plan to buy one.
Well,
I
it
just-
might show up on your desktop or something like that, or in the next unit you go to buy. Maybe the AI chip doesn't need to be on our laptops. Maybe it needs to be in our router or our cable modem or something like that to interpret what's going on, and then it sends it out.
I doubt that.
That's not how this works.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a
I
localized thing to that computer that you are using right now.
Right.
yeah, it's the way they're going to do troubleshooting. It's the way they're going to do I some of the help and some of the enhancements of Word and Paint and various things like that.
Yeah, but I do troubleshooting for computers with AI right now. I use CoPilot, Claude, occasionally Gemini. Gemini is by Google, and
Google.
Claude is I forget the name of the company. But anyway, those are three that I happen to
There's
use.
three of them.
And I take and well, I use the CoPilot heavily, but aside from those, I put in, say, a problem. This is the first round. I get some back. I review what's there. Most of what they tell me, I've already done because I'm a tech, and I will check out maybe one or two more. Then I will add to the bottom of that in the new line some additional information that I have acquired to get a refined set of recommendations. And I may go to a third level or a fourth level. But that's how you learn how to do troubleshooting without an NPU. And it works perfectly fine most of the time. But I have had a few stinkers where what the problem turned out to be never came up in any of the answers. And one of them was a strange, weird one I've never heard of before. But I accidentally figured it out on my own, and that was in the BIOS. Some computers' BIOS have detailed information about sleep mode, S0 and
Yeah.
S3. And they each one has.
I have to step away from the screen for a few moments. I'll be right back. Okay, so please continue the
Okay.
meeting. Harry's going to come up with the next question or topic, I hope. Just a question or topic.
The SO0 and SO3 are two types of basic old style sleep mode.
Mhm.
S4 and 5 are newer. This applies to S0 and S3. They have two different modes, modern mode and legacy mode or something like that. And the S0 was at one setting and the S3 was at the other setting. and the two got confused, so it would never go to sleep. Some people may experience the opposite, where it goes to sleep and never wakes up. So you in some BIOS you have to go through. It's usually in the power settings, and you have to check your sleep modes to see if it has two different modes for S0 and S3, and make sure they're identical. I've had a few other real stinker problems too, and I basically ended up having to figure it out on my own after I eliminated most of the other more common likelihoods.
Okay, so do we have another topic?
Yeah.
Just an observation that I'll throw out. So I noticed the speed on my desktop, my Wi-Fi, sorry, on the desktop, was just drastically lower. This was about 3 months ago. It was drastically lower. Replaced the
Wi-Fi card or
adapter. Yeah, the
a dongle.
and I had it, yeah, and it just wasn't right that my wired was way slower than my wireless. I rebooted, I added, I replaced the driver and all of it, nothing. And I just happened to talk to my grandson, just mentioning, he says to me, how often do you pull in and out the LAN, the cable, the hardwire cable? I said, I don't. I installed it about 7 years ago. We redid the office, my office that I'm sitting in right now. And the electrician said, how about as a favor, instead of having the cable out here, how about if I run it through the walls and I'll give you a jack? That was very nice. He didn't charge me for it, but I failed to have the foresight that one day that cable that I was burying in the wall would become old. And lo and behold, the connector was a little loose. And as soon as I replaced it, cost me about $8 for a cable. And my speed went from something like 95 megabits to 330, which is what it should be. So I solved the problem for $20, but I spent 3 months getting aggravated over what's causing this anomaly.
All of our hardware that we have for our computer systems and that they rely upon, they're just like us. They keep on aging, and as they age, they fail.
Not the people on this call,
So
but
I
others,
gave it a
yeah.
good funeral. Okay.
Yeah. But the interesting thing was that my grandson was right. I don't happen to take it in and out. I switch between the wired and the wireless, but I leave them both plugged in. But it just, it just
This little thing
deteriorated
here
over time.
works on just about anything. It's a USB device that connects to Ethernet cable. And it's a good way to check that kind of a problem out quickly and easily. If this thing says I got 300 gigabytes versus 95, your cable or that is between the computer and the wall jack, or from the wall jack back up to probably a switch or a router.
Yeah, it could be either of them, of course. Yeah. But it was a lot of, I just ran it along the baseboard here. You hardly see it. It's about 4 feet that's visible. The rest is hidden by things anyway. And for $20 made the problem go away.
So did you have to take your wall apart?
As opposed to taking the wall apart. That's correct. I didn't consider that for a minute.
If the wire had gone bad, inside the wall, that's what you might have had to do.
Well, I did my own in my house, and fortunately, in doing so, I learned a lot, and I also have a tester, so that when you put in a new line and you put on the jack ends, what you do is you connect up before you use it, the tester on each end to prove that you did it right and everything is connected the way it's supposed to.
Continuity and so on. Yeah.
Are we talking an RJ45 or a coax?
Yep. RJ45.
RJ45. Okay.
The connect, what I was saying was that about 3 months ago, I noticed a severe drop in my connected speed compared to the wireless. And it was just, and I tried all kinds of obvious solutions. So I just happened to mention it to my grandson, and he pointed out an obvious solution that I didn't check out.
Okay. Great question or comment or feedback, I mean, or information for the group. So Terry Moy, you've been pretty quiet over there. Unmute yourself and let's get a topic from you. Can you give me a topic for us to talk about tonight? Come on, rattle your brain, shake the head, come up with something. You gotta unmute yourself, Terry.
He doesn't remember how.
Oh, he knows how.
Do I have to unmute myself?
Yep. So give us a topic or a question.
Oh, long day. I'm out of questions.
You have
What was going to talk about? He had to leave early. What was the subject, or what was he going to talk about?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
What was Joe Nowat? What was
Yeah,
Joe
what was
Nowat
Joe
gonna
going to say? Yeah.
Well, that's a good question because Joe did not stick around long enough to say something.
Well, what was, I mean,
when I inquired about something,
Facebook or whatever, something?
yeah, there was some kind of book that he was going to tell the group that would be available. I guess I could go find the email that he sent me. I just figured I'd give him the honor of discussing this, but let me see if I can find that, and I will post it in the chat in just a moment. Let's see. Is this? No.
Yeah, Jim Freeberg also.
Is it a book he wrote, or is it one he recommends?
I assume it's recommended.
Yeah,
Oh,
he recommended.
Now you think, did he write a book?
No, he didn't write a book. There was a book that was being offered for free. There it is.
Oh, well,
Okay, and
Got his attention all of a sudden.
computer people are cheap, so free is good.
all right, so he was, let me share this screen. Let's see. No, he's here. Let me just copy this. I'll copy this and put this whole text he sent me. Oh, you can't get the whole thing. Control, see if this works.
Maybe copy it into a document
I'll see if I
quickly.
yeah, let's see that work. I'll try this. See if that works. That's the
Documents work. Okay.
okay. And I don't know if that's got the link in there.
Excel program. How to Geek. Microsoft Excel formulas and functions for dummies.
Right. He says you need to, the offer is only good till August 6th to get this free book on Excel formulas and functions. And trying to see if there was anywhere in here.
Yeah, well, I would Excel quite a bit.
You have to subscribe to their newsletter in order to get it.
Nothing is free anymore.
Not his newsletter.
Not his,
No, it's
theirs.
right.
How to Geek.
And you have to, he did not give me a link in this document on how to get it. So you have to go to How to Geek. And yeah, because I don't have anything but an image here.
How to Geek is a good source of articles all the time. And subscribing to it is nothing. And I get information from a lot of different sources. Yeah.
Okay, so this is what he sent me.
Oh, wow.
And he said and this is just a text I copied and pasted to the group. So
You don't get the printed
the only
version.
thing, this part here, it says Excel formulas and functions for dummies, 6th edition, a $25 value. That's an actual image on my page with no link offered to this.
It's a PDF file is what you're gonna get.
Okay.
I get a lot of those.
All
kind of
right.
things.
So that's what I believe Joe was going to discuss. I was going to let him take the podium and discuss that with the group. And I called on him several times, but he was not available. And I didn't do it in the very beginning. We were engrossed in other topics at the time. So that's what he was going to do, Terry.
Very good.
Okay, so now we need a topic to discuss. Throw out a topic. Don't think you got to come up with something like, you know, how to do tiddlywinks on your PC, or
Yeah.
have you been shopping for anything these days?
Now I had to get a newer
Were you-
car. I got I had to buy a 2017
Wait, you got to go back.
Hyundai Tucson, which is a very nice car.
So wait, you said you went shopping for a car?
I bought one. I had to. Somebody hit me, totaled my my Pontiac, so I had to go buy a great Hyundai
Your
Tucson.
car is
Okay, wait,
car-
that's
now a four-wheel computer.
right. So did you go online to shop for a car?
I do the general manager of the dealership, so is a client, so.
Oh, so you just went to a dealership and let them take care
Yeah, I
of it?
went to the dealership.
Okay, so you worked with somebody you trust versus doing your own research.
Yeah, I'm sure I got a very good car, so.
Okay, well, you hope that they sold, you know, they could sell
Well,
you.
you guys are very good.
Well, you hope. I mean, they don't make the car, remember that. So they're just
I
selling.
know, well, Hyundai does. So anyway.
All right.
So that's,
How did you boil down to this car? I mean, to make sure that it was good. Did you go again? I'm asking it.
well, the dealership, general manager is a client, so.
Okay, so since Terry is relying on somebody else to do the footwork and the dirty work on picking out a car, I'll throw it back to our group. If you were in the market to buy a used car, since he's got a used car,
Yeah,
what resources would you use to shop for a used car?
I would use Terry Moy to pay for it, whatever it is.
Okay, Terry's pretty rich, and he'll be happy to give you all the money in the world that you want to buy your next car, as long as its value is no more than $1. And I'm just joking on that. So my question is, what resources would somebody use to shop for a car? And I'm not talking like cars.com or Carvana or something like that. How would
CoPilot.
CoPilot. And now that this brings up shopping for a car. I'm going to write this down as one of our topics.
Be able to describe what you do want in features, capabilities.
Right,
Not be concerned about the color,
right.
especially for a used car.
So,
Well, do you want an all-electric car? Do you want a hybrid? Or do you want an ICE?
Right. But also what features that you must have on the car, because they may be optional in certain makes and models.
Right,
In other words, like, for example, do you want heated seats? Do you want a heated steering wheel?
Right.
Do you want cameras all around the vehicle to try and avoid accidents? Do you want
hold on. We got a lot of things you're saying we want, but let's kind of get a little more refined
so
here.
I don't have a rear end accident?
I brought up ChatGPT 4.0, and as a group, why don't we put together the parameters? We're going to shop for a car, right? So I'm going to tell Chat I want to buy a car or shop for a car and let's put in the parameters of this shopping for a car, and to get a suggestion, I want a suggestion on what
Put
kind
in, what is my budget?
of car to buy.
In my case, it was the client, so obviously an excellent personal recommendation is.
Okay, what's our budget? We're gonna come up with a, we're gonna be budget is less than. And somebody just throw out a number that's
21,500.
21,500.
Right.
100. Okay, and what else do we need?
And avoidant, I forget what it's called now.
Crash mitigation?
Incident avoidance capability. In other words, it'll stop your car before you rear end somebody else.
Crash mitigation.
Okay. And do you want cameras all the way around the car so that you just look at the screen to see?
Cameras 360. Now, if you see, I'm just writing these things in here. I'm not doing any special formatting. Wayne, give me another thing.
Does it have a heated steering wheel
Heated
Or-
steering wheel,
or heated seats?
heated seats, heated and cooled seats.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? Harry, give me a parameter you look for in a car.
Well, if your budget is 21,000, make sure they include a steering wheel and tires.
Well, that,
Right.
No, kidding. Kidding. Just kidding.
that's I don't want to
Just
put
kidding.
that in. That's kind of like
I was kidding.
I know. We're looking for, you want to buy a car, budget is less than 21,500.
Do you want to
Crash mitigation,
You didn't tell it if you want new or used.
new car, well, 21,000 is going to be hard to find one with a lot of features
Not for
on it.
new.
So,
Well, you might be able to get the hybrid or a gas only. One of the
okay, hybrid,
Yeah. You're gonna pay a lot more for a hybrid. Oh my gosh. You know, oh.
Yeah, but for a used car as old as you got, it's not as bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, or
Most of that's for,
an electric car. Oh my gosh. You know.
well, those are
Oh.
for new ones. If you get a used one, it's less.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, yeah, no, this one is, it's,
how many people do we want it to seat? 5?
5, yeah.
5 or
5.
6. Yeah,
5.
or 6.
Do we want an SUV or a non-SUV?
Probably
It'd be a
SUV.
sedan. Sedan.
I
Sedan.
think that's the SUV today. I mean, there's so many
Or a
SUVs out
hatchback.
there now.
Either a sedan or a hatchback. And by the way, hybrid is not ED, but ID. And sedan is
Sedan is
not
SEDA.
SA, it's SE.
Yeah.
Yeah, SE for sedan.
There you go.
There you
Sedan
go.
or
Correct.
what was
Or
hatchback?
a hatchback.
Yeah, I mean,
It wants to autocomplete that.
make sure you get an undercoat too, because that's what's part of the problem with the.
Well, no, that's an
That's
undercoat.
standard.
That's most cars today are already come with an undercoating, and post-production undercoating. You don't find Z-bar anywhere anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
That stuff got a bad
Well, I
reputation.
mean, that's what finished off my Pontiac. Well, I mean, because the,
yeah, but your Pontiac was done.
The rusting underneath. You know?
Well, that's driving in Chicago metro area where all the salt on the streets, but let's stay on this.
Okay.
What else do we want in a car? We want adaptive
Oh,
Adaptive cruise control.
cruise control.
do you want a Wi-Fi? Do you want displays in the back seats for like kids? Or grandkids or great grandkids?
Well, let me do this. The dealer installed, is it Sirius XM or whatever? And
Oh, So
You
you
know,
want serious?
is that worth it or, you know, because
No,
No,
I would not have that.
I would not have it
Sirius
either.
starts with
They
a-
are one of the problems with Sirius is they jack up their prices after a while and they make it very hard to unsubscribe.
Yeah.
They do, and I could attest to that. They just keep nagging you, and you have to keep calling every 3 months for a new rate.
I think
With them.
Sirius is
thank you for the advice on that. You know.
Now, Terry, if you drove across the country, it may be worth you to have something like Sirius XM. But
Yeah.
if you only drive locally, it's not needed unless you need to listen to Howard Stern every day, or one of the other celebrities that may be on those particular markets or those particular channels. But
Joe Rogan.
you're not going to find that. So let's stay on topic here. I'm trying to put this in.
Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and USB jacks in the car.
Wi-Fi jacks or Wi-Fi and
Wi-Fi,
service?
So just
cell,
Wi-Fi.
comma,
Okay.
and USB jacks. Some
USB
people like to
ports.
plug in their own device with their own music, custom tailored.
Give me something else.
Displays behind the front seats. That's important to people who like to have kids, grandkids, great grandkids, and keep them occupied.
Rear
Okay.
seat displays. Okay.
Are you? I don't
Spare
know.
tire.
Hold on. You threw in something there that I don't think would be in a sedan or a hatchback.
I don't think so either.
And that's more of an SUV or a minivan
Right.
Yeah.
to find a TV or screens in the back.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
possibility. I don't
Because
know.
well, it's a possibility, but they don't make them that way. Because a
No,
sedan is
no.
more for people like you and like older
Yeah.
people, or who just want a straight car. But they don't put entertainment systems in the back for kids. They'll put those in SUVs or bigger vehicles. All right, so
Spare tire. Spare tire.
a spare tire.
Not all cars come with spare tires.
No, they don't.
Tires, pressure sensors.
Well, that'd be normal.
They all
then-
come with that.
That's
They
standard
all
now.
come with it now?
TPS.
TPMs. Okay.
And they're all required to have a backup camera. So that's by
That's
law since
I
2018.
said cameras all the way
Really?
around, so that's covered.
okay. What else?
How about a working turn signal
Oh.
that won't let you get away with not using it?
That's not it. All right, let's see what it comes up with. And I'll let ChatGPT come up. Oh, there, look at that. It's listing a whole bunch of cars, and I'll have to back up here and see if I can see what it started out with. It started out with the Toyota Camry.
2018 to 20, and Honda Accord 2018 to 2020, Subaru Legacy, Ford Fusion, all in the same range.
Well, that's going to be the date range is going to be, will get you into that price bracket.
Right.
That's what they're doing. So here is a way to shop for a vehicle by just putting in the parameters of what you're looking for. I don't know who here has not played with AI in AI software or like ChatGPT or CoPilot, but you're missing out if you haven't. And all I could say is you're missing out. There's a lot of great things you could do with it, and we could see that right here. So what else can we do to refine this search some?
Well, you would have to add additional things down here.
Crash
without
test.
clearing out the current topic. In other words, you have a topic going here right now.
Right.
If you don't like what you saw up there completely, or you forgot something, you got to add it to the chat conversation, and it evaluates everything.
We could do that right here though. So what what do we want to add to this search here that's not in here?
That's what I'm getting at.
You don't have to repeat the question.
Crash test rating.
No,
Crash
repeat
test.
the question. You've already got it in play.
Rate a crash test rating of what? 4.0
I don't know what the ratings go to.
or higher. Let's see what that does. There you go. See, I didn't have to rewrite it. These things are conversational. So it's basing it built off of what you started with. And so it narrowed it down to 3 vehicles.
You can add a third one, low maintenance cost.
Low.
Don't remember that. And
no, how about low cost of operation?
Well, no, low maintenance cost and
Maintenance.
also low insurance cost. Most people forget these two.
Yeah.
Insurance.
Insurance. Okay.
And it's still stuck with these. But it does now identify the maintenance. And I will say Toyotas generally have a lower maintenance cost. Honda would be second, and I don't know about Subaru. I would not put them.
We've got a fourth one there.
Oh, it does say, well, the parts can be more expensive. The overall maintenance costs are reasonable. I beg to differ on Subaru.
Read these.
Subaru tends to be reliable in terms of not needing as many repairs, at least from that period.
Subaru is partially owned by Toyota.
Okay. Sanford does not agree with that statement, but that's because I've owned several Subarus and had many problems with Subarus. I'm no longer a fan, but this is me personally. So I have to step away from that.
There's a fourth car or no?
There is something down below that.
What's down below there?
That's the Ford Fusion.
There you go.
Wait, we've got
And the
Ford
Kia.
Fusion. See, now I added a couple more cars to this list, but I wonder, I'm assuming that.
No, it's the same cars.
Oh, okay.
And it talks about discounts.
That's pretty cool.
Saying because it's a used car, check maintenance records. I would check something like Carfax too to see if it's ever been in an accident.
Yeah.
So Terry, I know that you were not an early adopter of ChatGPT. Have you yet been an adopter of this?
Question, Sanford?
I said, you were not an early adopter of ChatGPT. Have you changed and become an adopter of using ChatGPT? Or are you still on the fence?
I'm not sure about your question. Or whatever.
Have you started to use ChatGPT?
I guess I don't know what it is or whatever.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Technology.
I know that we've talked about this before, but I guess vaporware. Anyone else want to refine the search a little?
I'm getting, sorry, Sanford, because I'm not.
That's
following.
okay. So we did ChatGPT and shopping and car shopping. Now I did this kind of experiment myself. I took it quite a few steps further. And I used both ChatGPT and CoPilot to try to come up with a camping vacation trip that I wanted to put on and do. And I wanted to do it in the state of Minnesota. And I gave it my start point, and I gave it where I wanted to go, how many days I wanted to spend at each location. I gave it the highlights of where I wanted to go. Like I said, I wanted to go from Rochester, Minnesota to Minneapolis to Duluth and St. Croix. And then I said, and I want to do a route around the state. And while it was doing that, I said, you have to find campgrounds that I can stay at that allow my equipment. And I gave it an equipment list of what I needed. And believe it or not, it put it together. And it gave me suggestions on campgrounds, either being state or non-state. They could be private, but most of them were state campgrounds. And I was really amazed at how well it worked. I did find a flaw in one of the ones that it selected, one of the campgrounds that was not able to, that really wasn't an overnight stay campground. And I corrected it, or I told it was wrong, and it corrected itself, and it kept going. And it made a new suggestion. So that you can use these programs much more extensively than you believe, than you can do from the beginning. As Tim suggested earlier, you could write computer programs with them and are probably great at doing it. You just need to make sure you debug anything that it's asking you and verify. Like I did with the camping trip, I started verifying the locations and places, as well as having, did these places have sites available? Not just give me the place, but tell me, do they have sites available? That one, I don't know if it was great at, but I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, but when you do your camping, how do I went up to my three daughters and grandkids. We went out to Yogi Bear,
Campgrounds?
the
Okay.
cabins. How do you do your camping?
Oh, I do. We have a camping trailer, and we tow a trailer behind us. And
Is it like an Apache or regular full trailer?
it is.
Like a motorhome kind of thing, or
No, that's the motorhome is more like an RV.
well, I mean, a pull-along trailer.
Mine's a pull along. Mine's an 18-footer camper.
Oh, 18-footer. Oh, yeah, like a fifth wheel or whatever.
No. A fifth wheel is much larger than an
Oh, yeah.
18-foot. Those are more like 20, more like 30-foot trailers, and fifth wheel requires you to have a big truck that you can put part of it onto the back of that pickup truck, because that's why they call it the fifth wheel. The fifth wheel is your other vehicles, your tow vehicle.
Yeah, but
mine's
a great time with my three daughters in California, and one came in from California, and all the grandkids. So
okay.
we stay in the cabin. Except you get a lot of flies out on the campgrounds. Oh my God!
Well, it depends where you.
Yeah, the number of flies is absolutely amazing.
You could be we're going off topic here. You could have a lot of mosquitoes at those campgrounds too.
Well, what they have mosquitoes with the flies. Yep. Good Lord.
But you're a city guy and you're not used to this.
Oh, no, that's just, oh my God. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I hope I kind of illustrated some of the things you could do with ChatGPT, and I would hope that everybody here would, or CoPilot. You could just use CoPilot. CoPilot's built into your operating system already. Here, let's see CoPilot. I can pull up CoPilot. Oh, let me share this screen if I can. CoPilot preview. And this is, oh, that's kind of weird how this works, because CoPilot's off on the side.
Yes.
So here is the last time I ran CoPilot. This was the trip that I chose. And I'll try to go back to my original, here I go. I said, I want to plan a camping trip through Minnesota. My first stop will be Chester Woods County Park, which is outside of Rochester. My destinations include, and I gave it a bunch of cities, and I only want to drive no more than 5 hours a day. I can only drive a maximum speed of 65 miles an hour. Give me a list of state or county campgrounds along with your recommendations of other places and times to get there. Each campground must offer sites with electric. Okay. So I did not tell it to check to make sure availability. I think that was up to me. And it then produced, this is CoPilot. Are you guys able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
One
Tim?
thing I want to point out, Sanford, that little blue circle down where you would type new information in, You click that when you're absolutely done with the topic, and it clears the deck for a new topic.
Ah, okay, thank you. I did not know that. Or I would
Yes.
just go down the top in the box down there and I'd say new topic.
Well,
No, I think you do up above.
takes care of
Right,
leftover, because otherwise it'll try and tie something new again with the old.
right. So as you can see here, it did give me a list. It told me how to drive from one place to another. You know, how day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, where I was going to drive, how many hours it would take me to go from place to place based off of the speeds I was giving it, and knowing it would know the speeds of the roads you'd be taking. Okay, and here I told it in the beginning, in here I said, your selection of Miller Creek Campground is an error, choose another. And it said it apologized for any confusion. This is, what can I say? It's apologizing to me. Computer is. And it gave me an alternative to, it gave me a couple alternatives to use. And, you know, here's the list with links, phone numbers, directions. This is pretty cool when you can tell a software to plan a trip that you would normally have to sit down with a map and go,
Yeah.
where do I want to go? How do I want to do this? And this is doing it just on the fly. Oh, shit. Did I just tell it to clear out something? Whoop. I told it that I screwed up on something.
Maps. Does it also provide maps?
I don't know if it supplies maps.
We just saw maps in
There
this.
was a map
Yeah.
on here, but I don't know if it actually supplied me a map.
Some maps gives you point-to-point driving instructions in case you need it because you don't have a GPS or something.
Right, and I didn't go that far, but I think that may be a possibility of something that could be done here to tell it, okay, when you're done, give me a graphical map. I'm assuming 4.0 can do something like that, but I don't know this for a fact. I know the earlier version was just text only.
Okay.
And it didn't have any visuals. 4.0 will also work as an audio, I'm sorry, with an audio response. So you could conversationally do this. There's a little microphone here in the bottom. You could do this through your phone and just log into CoPilot. I don't know how you do it on your phone, but I guess you could. And just use ChatGPT 4.0, or just go on your phone, go to the ChatGPT and get it to the 4.0, and then use your microphone on your phone and tell it, this is what I want it to do, and see what it comes up with.
Did you try Gemini?
I did not.
I haven't tried that, so I'm not familiar with it.
Tim says he has.
I've only used it a little bit, but it's pretty straightforward. They do it different with Google's AI assistants than most of the others. They use their in-house massive database of what people are looking for, the answers they get, what they buy, what they don't buy, or et cetera, et cetera. And so theirs is an in-house database with probably very little outside information, where most everybody else gets purchases data from other companies, puts it into an aggregated database to do the analysis.
How do you get to Gemini? Is that you have to sign into Google
You're supposed to be signed into Google,
account?
okay? And you can, I think, if I remember right, and like I say, it's been a little while since I last used it. I think it's Gemini.com.
Nope, nope. I'll share it with you in just a second here. I got it up on my screen, and it is Gemini.google.com.
Okay. Well, look, I couldn't remember total detail.
And that is, I guess, I'm not familiar with this. I haven't used this application. Wayne, maybe you could check this out and let us know at one of the future meetings, this is what you saw when you tried it. And try to do something like I did. I mean, this was a complex scenario that I was listing out to it when I told it that I could only drive this far, this fast, you know, these are my restrictions, and see what it comes up with.
You can also do computer troubleshooting, because like I said, I've gone 3-4 levels, similar to what you did with the trip.
So I've not used this app before.
It used to be, oh, what the heck was the name of it? Huh, I've already forgotten it. It used to be a different name.
But it's okay, Tim, if you don't remember, it's
You
And
mean are you talking about Google Bard?
yes, Bard.
oh, Bard. Okay.
And they when they upgraded dramatically the Bard type software, they decided to change the name to Gemini.
Okay.
I've used Bard in the past too.
Good discussion. Is there anything else anyone would like to add to tonight's meeting or as a new topic? We're running out of things.
You never run out of things with computers. There's so many possibilities.
Right. So I will mention that there will not, the next tips and tricks meeting will be what, on the 13th?
There is no CCS meeting next week.
There is none next week. The next meeting was tips and tricks, which should be on the 13th. And then after then we'll have
South a week later.
no, the third Thursday, or is it the fourth serve? When is the Northwest?
Right. It's the third Thursday. So after South Suburban is Ed Keating's Northwest Computer Club.
Okay.
And then the fourth week is on Tuesday is Linux.
Okay. Does anyone have any other comments or anything they'd like to add to tonight's meeting? With that, I will call the meeting to adjourn and end the recording.